11 years into a show, clearly you're want to make sure you're still giving great threats and having big obstacles for them. And I feel like the Sister of God, you've done pretty well with that.
Yeah, it's about as big as you can get, right?
Yeah. I mean, now that we've learned that revelation, I mean, just for these guys, they faced a lot. But do you think at this point the darkness does seem just like a different kind of enemy than they faced before?
I would say so. I mean, in our show, God has been gone for a while.
Yeah.
And so now we find out that Amara is on Earth, and Amara's God's sister, and it makes the boys wonder, like, if she's back, God presumably knows that he's still not coming back. Like, how bad can that be?
Right.
So I think it's kind of a whole new level for the fellows.
We've gotten a glimpse last year of Chuck God, as it were, last year. Made a little cameo.
Yep.
But at this point, are they trying to find God? Knowing that what they're facing at this point.
I think at this point the brothers they've always kind of relied on themselves and their core group of supporters, and God has never really been anywhere in the picture, so to speak. So I think for them to really rely on the idea that he's going to come back and help out in the situation, I think is a fleeting idea. Obviously, Sam might have more of
feels more of a connection
than Dean would. Dean's like, listen, he's not here now. He's never been here. We're on our own, and that's the way it's going to be, and we'll figure this out like we always do.
Yeah, and it'd be nice if he I think Dean is probably like, it'd be nice if he shows up, but we can't rely on him, so let's not count on him. Whereas Sam, he's having these visions, and he feels very strong that they're coming from God, and so he is trying to reciprocate that and make that connection, and we're going to see Sam go to some lengths to try and get that figured out.
Yeah.
There was also an appearance, a lot of people are talking about a certain cage that we got a glimpse of that has importance in this show. Clearly for Sam, there's some personal stuff there. What can you say about that cage, and is it more what it represents, or might we actually be getting a little more of a tangible look back inside that and who's inside it? Because there's a few characters in play.
Sure. I think there is a bit of hesitation and reluctance with Sam having these visions of the cage. Obviously, he's been there, and he didn't like it very much, so he doesn't want to go back, but that's why he certainly must be coming from a higher power. And so we will delve more deeply into what's in that cage, and these visions will continue, and Sam will go to whatever lengths he needs to go to figure out who's in that cage, what they have to say, and why they have to say it.
Right. And there is another Winchester brother that.
Yeah, that's right.
For Dean with Amara, it's interesting because there's this deal they have of not harming each other, but then there is this question of, is it all about the deal? Is she controlling him a little bit? What is exactly at play there?
Well, I don't think it's a deal about not hurting each other. I mean, if you look and Dean actually tries to, he kind of snaps out of it. It's almost a mind control trance. But you see when Amara throws Sam across the room, he goes to go at her, and then she flicks him against the wall. And so there are a couple of moments where Dean has had an opportunity to at least try and facilitate some sort of battle against her, and has failed. And that will be touched upon as to whether or not that failure is intentional, or whether he's just not really trying that hard, or whether there's something that is literally holding him back.
Do you think there's any sort of affection, I don't know if that's the right word, on her part for him that is stopping her from doing anything, or might there be a bigger, more ominous thing at work?
I think it's, I'd say, affection, just for lack of a better term, I'd say it's more of a curiosity. The bond that they share with the Mark of Cain is certainly something that that they both want to try and figure out, what it is and how that relationship is connected. But the attraction, so to speak, is, I think it's more rooted in curiosity. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys about Crowley's role in all this, because he's got sort of a strange, almost fatherly thing happening, and there's been so much back and forth with that character and you guys, and he's been sort of the the pain you can't get rid of. As you move forward, because once upon a time there was a sort of bond there with Dean. That's done. Are these guys like Crowley seem ready now to finally just kill them? Would if they could just take him out completely at this point, would they? Or is it strange and muddled because he's been their pseudo ally at times?
Well, and I think that the relationship will kind of play into future dealings. And I think that at this point he's not entirely an enemy.
He's not openly aggressive necessarily.
Yeah, he's not out to get us, and so therefore we don't have to necessarily arm ourselves or take him out at this point.
It's almost a devil's bargain where we're not sure if we're going to need him. He's not sure if he's going to need us, right? So we're keeping each other at arm's length, and if I knew I didn't need you, I'd probably kill you, and he's probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah, keeping that relationship at least alive is, oddly enough, a necessary evil.
Right.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah.
Castiel's coming out of his own problems. So is he someone does he sort of need some downtime, or is he someone that right now they can relean on? Or
I think at this point they're like, the brothers are take a knee, recoup, get back your mojo, and we'll figure out where we can use you and you can help us out. Obviously he's not one to want to just sit it out, so he's going to try to get back into it as quick as he can.
Yeah, this show, having been on so long, is the cool thing about it, one of the cool things about it, that you can kind of call upon things from way back when, like even the cage, that was introduced so long ago.
Yeah.
So is that cool for you guys when you get a script or you're talking to producers and you hear that they might throw back a character or something that from many years back?
For me, I love it. It's so cool. It gives such depth to the show and to the characters and to our journey, and reminds both us as performers and as the characters, and I think the audience, like just what we've all gone through together. And a lot of times, some of the episodes, especially some of the more lighthearted ones we do, you almost forget the gravitas of what these boys set out to do 11 years ago, or almost 11 years ago. But going back and seeing and going like, oh yeah, the cage, that was what we talked about in season 5. So that was just a couple years ago. It was 6 years ago.
Right.
I hadn't met my wife 6 years ago.
Right.
Or I guess I had, but for me, it's a lot of fun, and by and large, I'm really fond of our guest cast that has been on our show. We keep in touch, doing conventions often, and we see each other. We're in the same cities, and so it's just a lot of fun. It feels like, to use a sports analogy, when a quarterback and the team have been playing for so long together, it just works like this, right? As opposed to trying to join a new team or get a whole new cast. So there's a familiarity to it, and I think that familiarity really allows us to delve deeply into the story and deeply into the characters, and to learn something else about these characters that you otherwise wouldn't have known.
Mm-hmm. You just did an episode that was extremely well received with Baby, and your show does such a good job of, it seems like once or twice a year doing a very off-kilter episode, kind of taking a new way to look. When you get something like that, is that really exciting for you guys because it's just not your usual sort of paradigm?
Yeah, this one was, to be into a series and going into your 11th season, and then the episode 4 of season 11, you read something that is new and exciting and exhilarating, and it's something that we've never done before. It's refreshing, It's not to say that it's stale any other time, but I give a ton of credit where credit's due, and the writing staff and the producers down south. They really do continue to try and recreate and innovate, and it's unique for us because it keeps things fresh up here as well. Mm-hmm. And so when we get stories like that, or when we get a one-off where we're doing something that we haven't necessarily done before, then it's exciting, it's refreshing, and it kind of reinvigorates the energy within the whole crew and the cast. And we're really proud of that one because we're tackling a fairly unique set of difficulties with rigging cameras to cars, only shooting it from inside the car. How are we going to cover it? The crew's going to walk away, and the two of us are going to drive off, and we hope we get the scene, and then we got to do the playback. And so there was a lot of things that we're not used to, and you can imagine after 10 years of working on a series, it's a very well-oiled machine. Mm-hmm. And to throw a giant wrench in the system and everybody cheer for it is even crazier.
Yeah, how many shows can you tell the studio and network that are paying for you to be able to make a show, hey, we're going to do a show about a character called the Car.
And we're going to completely disrupt everything the way we do, the way we shoot this show. We're going to not do that at all.
Right. And not only does that go to show how amazing and creative our writers are, but how awesome our fandom is, because
and the network in the studio for saying, you know what, we trust you guys.
Yeah, we trust you guys, and we trust y'all's fandom to see it as what it is. You know, essentially, Baby is the third lead of the show. Mm-hmm. Baby's been there since
the beginning,
the very beginning, and will be there till the very end, I'm certain. Mm-hmm. So that was a really neat, different perspective.
And it's got to be so gratifying. I imagine when you see it air, and then that people so many people I saw were like, "This is one of their best episodes."
Yeah, and 200 and what have we done now? 225.
I lost count up.
225 was this past Wednesday. We aired episode 7.
Yeah.
Is there any going back to what we were talking about, like what the deep well you have at this point? Are there any characters or storylines that you would love to see one day resurface?
There's a list.
There is. Yeah.
There's a list, and that's one of the reasons why we enjoy having, storylines and characters from the past resurface and come back, and it's one of the great things about our show is that given the parameter or given the non-parameters that are on our show and the genre that we are, we're able to do that. People can come back from the dead, or people can have visions. We can, there's this kind of it's like a fifth wall, and I think that's really fun for us to have, old characters. Like even right now, the show we're shooting right now, we've got 3 characters downstairs that have shot, years before, and that's great. That it just keeps the family within the family, and it's I don't know. I really like the familiarity with that.
And I think especially the storyline with God's Sister. I mean, it's kind of in the same general vicinity as seasons 4 and 5, where we were bringing in archangels and when we were bringing in Michael and God and whatnot. And on that note, I would love to see like Richard Speight come back, and not just as a director, because obviously his episode airs next week and he was wonderful as a director.
Right.
But I'd love to see his character come back, and I'd obviously love to see Rob Benedict come back, and I'd love to see a lot of those characters that are these big time.
Jim Beaver come back.
I'd
love to see Tim Amundsen come back.
Sure.
There's a list. There's a laundry list of faves that we have that we just had so much fun working with, and it's not just the antics while the cameras aren't rolling. Working with them while the camera is rolling is highly gratifying, and it's you feel like your game is upped when you're playing with somebody that has a game of that level, and so we really enjoy that.
I know better at this point to ask you guys, do you know how many more years the show will go for?
At this point, it's
we don't
it's a moot point.
Right.
Yeah.
But that being the case, like, have you just whether it's spitballing or just joking, do you guys sometimes talk about like how you'd like to see this show end, or how you imagine it ending when the time comes?
Yeah. It certainly runs through your head. I mean, at first it runs through your head just so you can kind of wrap your head around that possibility in a negative way, to go, okay, this may get taken away, not through no choice of my own, it may go away. And now we've been going, and we've got such a loyal fan base, and we have such a wonderful and loyal studio network that let us play within our realm, that I don't pretend to know other than this mosquito.
That's a persistent.
He's tired of my answer. So I wish I had some idea. I'd like to end on a high note. I don't want to like kind of waver and temper off and kind of start jumping the shark. But we've been able to come up with new, fresh ideas. I think with this show, we'll all know when it's done. Mm-hmm. We'll all look at the ideas and look at each other and go like, you know what? I think it's best we put this horse down, as opposed to letting it kind of die a miserable death. Hopefully that doesn't come for a while. And he and I are both dads now, and so we joke to each other that hopefully it goes for a long time, because it's easier than going home and watching kids. This far into it.
Facing the devil.
We're no dummies.
Yeah.
We ain't dumb.